Ever wanted to feel like a king or queen whilst at the same time making a safe investment in your future? Investing in precious metals like gold and silver is one of the most common ways to safely invest and grow your portfolio, but can seem scary to some. So in this video, I'm going to provide a beginner's guide on how to invest in precious metals and how you can get started for less than $100. Before we get started, just a tiny request. If you find any benefit from this video, I would love it if you could just like and leave a comment down below, because it helps us immensely in getting the message out about finance and freedom to the world, a human right that we believe every single person deserves on this planet. Thank you in advance. As always, everything that I share in these videos, it is not financial advice. It is just sharing in on my story of how I became a 30-year-old millionaire and an investor. So with that being said, the way that I look at investing is very conservative. It's very boring, to be honest. It's not flashy like you see in the movies. You don't lose your mind. You can't not sleep at night. I sleep very well at night, and I try to set up my investments right now in this stage of my life very securely, because I want to plan for my future retirement, because I don't think there's going to be retirement funds in the future because banks have made such a big boo-boo, same as government. So I want to be able to protect my family in the future, protect myself in the future, and just have a solid base whilst also sleeping really well at nighttime. But I completely understand that some people are more attracted to these riskier investments, such as trading stocks, because it's a lower barrier to entry. Less money is required for you to go in, but it is riskier, so you can lose a lot more. Any investment is a gamble. Life is a gamble. You can lose your job tomorrow. Same with investments. All of them have a potential to crash. No one really knows how to invest for the future. We don't really know what the financial situation is going to look like in 10 years. We're going through an enormous shift right now, so we don't really know what it's going to look like. So everybody's kind of just a little bit betting on what's going to work. And then there's a way to bet on safer investments, such as property investing and precious metals, and the riskier ones, which is trading, for example. And so because I do love having a stable mind and being able to sleep at night, I have chosen to go down the route of securing my finances really safely at the beginning. And now that I have a solid base, I am going to be exploring more the riskier investments. However, probably not that much, because this strategy works so well. As I said, it's not very sexy. It definitely isn't very sexy. The return on your investment is a lot slower and smaller, but I'm okay with that, because I'm in this for the long haul. To be completely honest, I wouldn't actually invest in precious metals as one of the early investments that I would make in growing my investment portfolio, because they don't really make money. For me, precious metals is kind of just like my own bank. I'm just storing things for the future in case I need to withdraw from that or bet on that, or it's somewhere where I can safeguard my cash against inflation. And I'll talk about inflation very shortly. My first strategies of growing my investment portfolio would be to build up as much of my income as possible through business. I think business is one of the greatest ways you can increase your income, and then looking at owning homes, property investments. So I wouldn't go for precious metals first and foremost. A lot of people do judge my investment strategies, just so you know. This is why this is not financial advice, it's education of what I want to do, because I look at other wealth professionals that are way ahead of me and I see what they're doing, and I want to replicate that as well in some degree. For example, there's a man called Nathan Birch. He's one of the biggest property investors in all of Australia, with maybe 200, 300 properties, maybe more by now. And he heavily talks about investing in precious metals as well, and just doing the slow, steady investment strategies. So if you don't like the strategy, that's fine. There are plenty of other YouTube channels talking about different ways of investing your money. So now you might understand why I would consider myself a boring conservative investor, and I'm very happy about it. And with that being said, one of the biggest parts of my investment portfolio is precious metals. Precious metals is a term that covers off a lot of different metals, including palladium, silver, platinum, and gold. However, the two most traded and invested in metals are gold and silver. There are different metals you can invest in, such as aluminium, tin, copper, nickel. However, these are more classified as commodity metals. And commodity metals are metals used in industry, basically to build stuff in society. And although gold and silver and other precious metals can absolutely be classified as commodities, more often than not, they're in their own little category because they are more valuable, so they can be used in lieu of cash to buy things or to trade. In fact, some of the areas of the world, including the United Arab Emirates, you can go to the ATM and withdraw gold just like it is cash. There are two ways that people approach having precious metals. Number one is to trade precious metals, just like they would on the stock market. So people buy when there is a dip in the market, and then hopefully the price goes up, and then they sell and they get the profit in between. This is where you don't own any of the stock. You're literally just trading it electronically. The other strategy is to actually buy silver, gold, any other precious metals, and store it in safe vaults around the world or have it on you in person. So why have precious metals historically been a safe and stable investment? Well, essentially we're dealing with a thing in history in the world called inflation, or sometimes hyperinflation. And what that means is that your currency is losing its value over time. Say your parents, they tell you a price of how much they used to pay in order to buy a house, and your jaw drops because you can't believe it. I remember buying the little red frogs in Australia at lunchtime for cents, and now people are telling me how much they are, and I cannot believe it is the same thing. It doesn't make sense. Say that you have $1,000 in your bank account and that account has 0% interest. In 50 years, you're still gonna have that $1,000 in that account, except that it is not worth very much because everything around you has gone up in price. Everything costs more. And this is inflation in front of our eyes. Most bank accounts, they do actually have an interest rate, but that interest rate is oftentimes too low in order to beat the inflation. So that's why people say that if you hold your cash, big chunks of money, say waiting for a house deposit, if you're keeping it in the bank, that money is losing its value over time because the currency are being devalued and house prices are probably going up as you're waiting to invest that money. And this is why precious metals are so interesting, because historically they have been beating inflation. So instead of keeping big chunks of cash somewhere in the bank, I would rather have it in precious metals in case I want to invest in something else in the future, or honestly to just diversify my investment portfolio, because as I said, we don't know what the financial landscape is going to look like in the future. So just having different baskets ready, that's the strategy for me. Furthermore, in times of economic crisis, currencies are very often likely to collapse or decrease tremendously in value. This happened in 2008 in Iceland, for example. Different precious metals cost different prices, obviously. So you do want to diversify within your precious metal portfolio as well. At the time of recording, gold is around 1,900 USD per ounce, or almost 61,000 USD per kilogram. Silver is a lot more affordable. At the time of recording, an ounce of silver is around $27 USD or $900 USD per kilogram. So if you wanted to start your investment journey and you've got nothing behind you, even $100 is going to get you around 4 ounces of silver. And now this might not sound like it's a lot, but it is a start. And it's much more realistic for people to have a few ounces of silver than it is to have a few ounces of gold. You can store this in your house or you can store it in a vault somewhere. Personally, this was my very first investment ever. Now, I know I said that I would never start with investing with precious metals, but I did. You can do absolutely whatever you want. I also break my own rules, obviously. There was just something special about owning an investment like this. I acquired this about 7 years ago. So we have here 3 ounces of silver and 1 kilogram of silver. It was so fun to receive this, honestly. It changed something in my mind and I realized that I was an investor at this point, and it just changes your confidence and it puts you into a club. I don't know how to explain it, but if you feel like you belong to a club of people that really respect finances and wealth building, and so therefore your eyes are more open to opportunities around investing because this is such a big priority to you, instead of spending things like on doodads, as Rich Dad calls it, which is just buying a garment or other assets that depreciate in value, such as cars. I have these investments on my desk at all times because I just find it very interesting to look at them. It makes me feel a lot richer inside, but the rest of my precious metals are stored in vaults around the world. Also consider that kings and queens and pirates have all had precious metals, and you see these beautiful stories, maybe not so much of the pirates, but going around with their wealth and just feeling so rich and feeling so certain in themselves. And there is something about precious metals and owning a little bit, even just this much, that gave me a boost of confidence that was just so beautiful. And anything that shifts your internal state to feel more wealthy will make you look out for more abundance in the world. And this is precisely what this did for me. So how do you get started in investing in precious metals, Sorrel? Stop talking already. So as I mentioned, there is the trading aspect of precious metals where you just trade electronically. You don't own any of the precious metals. Let's not talk about that. Let's talk about owning precious metals. So yes, I have my precious metals in vaults around the world. They are companies specializing in holding a lot of people's precious metals. That is what they do. They have the precious metal that is assigned to me, my name or my company or trust name, and they are stored very securely. The advantage of having your precious metals in vaults around the world is that they're also insured against fraud or damage. If there's a fire, for example, or if there's a robbery, your precious metals are insured. And so this is one of the safest ways in order to store your precious metals. There are some costs to having your precious metals stored in vaults around the world, but it is not a very high cost. Sometimes it's around 0.01% monthly cost. So say you have $10,000 worth of precious metals invested in one of these vaults around the world, it might cost you $1 a month in order to store your metals in there. Now, having storage vaults around the world for your precious metals might sound a little bit complex, but it's actually a lot easier than you might think. There are two different ways of finding a vault. Number one is to find one close to you, possibly. A lot of major cities do have a vault, and the best way to find them is to just type in gold bullion or gold storage facility and then name of your city and see if something comes up, or see where the nearest one to you is. The reason this might work for you is because in times of crisis, if you want to get your gold and silver out, you're able to do so. For example, this is very far-fetched, but during the Great Depression, there was hyperinflation. Currency meant really nothing. So potentially, no one really knows, I could be able to maybe trade with these precious metals. The second way, you can invest in precious metals online and still have them underneath your name, but they're just scattered in vaults around the world. This can be valuable for diversification reasons. If one country goes to shit, essentially, or if something's going on around the world, you're just able to have all of the locations of your precious metals scattered, not all eggs in one basket. As I've mentioned before, you just want to diversify as much as possible. The service that I use in order to store my precious metals in vaults around the world is Goldmoney. I am not sponsored by them. This is not a sponsorship message. I have just used them for years. So if you're interested in finding more about them, there's a link in the bio. It is an affiliate link. So if you sign up through me, I will be benefited, but maybe you've got enough value from this video so far that you might find it valuable to click on that link. Essentially how that service works is that you send a bank transfer to Goldmoney, then your account becomes funded at Goldmoney, and you can choose to allocate the funds that you have within Goldmoney to any of the storage vaults around the world with a precious metal of your choice. The thing that I really like about Goldmoney is that the service is not just limited to people within Europe or North America, it is available to people worldwide. And the amazing thing about them is that you own the precious metals. It is under your name or the trust name or the company name that you purchase the precious metals under, meaning that if you say put $500 into silver that you want to store in Switzerland, that is yours. There's a piece of you and your investment strategy in Switzerland. They have 15 vaults around the world, which includes Canada, Switzerland, Singapore, United Kingdom, Germany, Hong Kong, USA, and a few more. So once you invest in precious metals, they will just store the precious metals until you decide to sell it. And there's two reasons why I really love Goldmoney. Number one, if you want to have all or a part of your precious metals shipped to you, they will do so at a fee, of course. They'll ship the precious metals to anywhere in the world that you would like it. The second reason I like them is you can switch your precious metals between different vaults around the world with a fee as well. But say you don't like what's going on in, say, Hong Kong, and you want to switch your vault with your precious metals to a different place around the world, they will do that for you. Just remember that just because you have precious metals stored in vaults around the world, it doesn't mean that it is hidden and you don't have the responsibility to mention this to the governments for tax purposes. In many countries, there is a thing called the capital gains tax, which is a tax that you have to pay if you have sold at a profit. And in many countries, you also have to report any assets you might have, no matter where they are in the world. They want to know everything about you. But for this reason, it might be good to look at having your precious metals owned by either a company or a trust, because oftentimes there is a better tax benefit of having your company own it instead of you having it personally. Of course, the rules on this will vary from country to country, so you have to check in with your local financial advisor to find out what structure is best for you. You did it! Congratulations! We're at the end of the beginner's guide of investing in precious metals. I hope you enjoyed this. I hope you got some benefit. If you did, please, it would be really, really helpful for us to hit the like. And if you have any further questions, drop them down below in the comments. Just as an FYI, we do send out extra 2 lessons via a newsletter twice a week. Leon writes them. He spends 4 to 6 hours on every single one of them. He wants to do so much research to give you the most value as possible. So if you want to know more about the finance and freedom journey, make sure you join the newsletter with the link in the bio. Precious metals, it's not going to make you rich. It's just a really good strategy, in my opinion, to diversify your investment portfolio. For myself, a conservative investor, I just really like this strategy. So hopefully this video gave you some insights into your own investing journey. If you like this video, make sure you subscribe for plenty more finance and freedom videos, and I will see you in the next one.